All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Sterling Heights City Council to order. If you would, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our elected officials. Grant them courage and wisdom to do what is right for all citizens. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Riska. Can we please have the roll call?
Taylor?
Here.
Mr. Oskey?
Here.
Oskey?
Present.
Mr. Radke?
Present.
Mrs. Schmidt?
Present.
Mr. Yanez?
Here.
Mrs. Yarko?
Present.
Thank you, Council. We need approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the agenda.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. First item on our agenda tonight is a report from our city manager, Mark Vanderpool. Mr. Vanderpool.
Thank you very much, Mayor. With these cold temperatures, it's always nice to think about summer and especially Sterling Fest. And before we start talking about Sterling Fest 2025, we're still celebrating Sterling Fest 2024 because it was a record year in many ways. And I wanted to tonight highlight our amazing partnership with Connect Macomb, our chamber, who we work hand in hand in to produce this amazing festival, which really has become a focal point, a destination in the summer for people not only in Sterling Heights, but all over the region. And before we get into the actual check presentation, I just wanted to talk in round numbers about what it takes to produce Sterling Fest, because it really has become quite a spectacle and an organizational marvel, if you will, when you consider the hundreds of people that are involved. But it takes about $700,000 to put on Sterling Fest every year. And thankfully, through our partnerships with many individuals, including Connect Macomb, we raise about $450,000 through sponsorships and our vendor fees and through revenue sharing with Connect Macomb and so on. Now, there is a cost to the city, but we minimize the cost through all these revenue sharing options. And this year was a record year. I'm not sure if we can beat it next year, but we're going to try. I know our community relations director is very focused on having another record year for our corporate donations. So we're looking forward to that. Undoubtedly, we're going to have another good year with the carnival and pavilion revenues and so on. But this partnership that we have with Connect Macomb is a win-win partnership. We develop, and you're going to see the money shortly, we get revenue sharing from this partnership that equates to almost $200,000 this year. But in addition, it's Connect Macomb's largest fundraiser as well. So it's win-win for them. But the big benefit to the city and all those who participate is there's about 200 amazing volunteers that help run the event, especially the pavilion, connected with Connect Macomb, in addition to all the city employees that help out full-time and part-time and all the other volunteers. So this evening, I'm really pleased to introduce our Connect Macomb President and CEO, Stacy Zarko, who's going to present the city with our side of the revenue, which is much larger than their side of the revenue. We'll take that. We're not complaining. And after she makes her presentation, we'd like to have the mayor and city council go down and take a photo with the check.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here tonight as it's cold, and like Mark said, we get to talk about summertime and Sterling Fest. I think this year partially was the record-breaking weather that we had. It was a weekend I don't think like any of us have seen. We too appreciate the partnership that we have with the city of Sterling Heights and allow us to continue to help facilitate the pavilion and the carnival each and every year. It was truly a monumental, record-breaking revenue weekend for all of us, so we are pleased to do that. The other thing, and I have said this to Mr. Vanderpool in some of our board meetings, is that we work with other chambers and cities and municipalities that are around Southeast Michigan. And so a good example is friends of ours in a township west of here, their city council has opted to no longer allow carnivals and festivals because of safety purposes. And so I think that that is Sterling Fest's biggest testament, is that it has maintained and continued to be the safest festival in Southeast Michigan. So we appreciate your partnership in allowing this to continue as we watch some of our other friends struggle. So I think that's the biggest thing. So thank you to that it's an investment that we all make to keep that weekend very, very safe. So I am pleased today to, we have mailed the official check, so I'm sorry I don't have that with me. I think it's somewhere in Treasury, Mark. But I do have the big, giant fund check for $201,478. So it was a great weekend, and so whoever said their prayers to the weather gods last July, if you could work on those now, so we have the same 80-degree and sunny, no rain weekend, that would be fantastic. So again, we thank you so much. Our volunteers love it and look forward to it. Thank you, because many of you stepped in and poured beer throughout the weekend, or your family members did, or friends did. I am soliciting for those 200 volunteers now, so who's ever ready to do that next year, please give me a call. So thank you so much. We're grateful to be here. We enjoy seeing you at ribbon cuttings, at our events, and not only Sterling Fest. So we appreciate the partnership the city has with Connect Macomb. Oh, I can see.
Here we go.
Got it?
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you. Perfect.
Thank you, Stacy.
And Mayor, continuing on, I'd like to introduce our Community Relations Director, who'd like to talk about an important event coming up and also a major initiative that's going to be launched in the spring.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderpool, and thank you, City Council Mayor, for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit with you today about our upcoming holiday, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We have a couple of different initiatives taking place around the city that I wanted to share, and I'll end with our a new event that we're planning for that day. So first of all, in celebration of MLK Day, on Thursday, January 16th, our Teen Community Service Project at the Public Library will be decorating posters at 3:30 p.m. that day. Now, these posters will be for the city's event on the 20th, which I'll tell you more about shortly. But I wanted to also note, for teens in our community that are interested in that service project, service hours can be earned on that day. Then we also at the public library have a take-home craft for youth that can be picked up. It's offered at the library between Thursday, January 16th and Sunday, January 19th, while supplies last. It's a take-home craft that features a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and that quote is, "The time is always right to do what is right." When that project is put together, residents are encouraged to post it on Facebook or Instagram and tag us at Sterling Heights Public Library in celebration of that important holiday. In addition, the library wanted me to let everybody know that they also have over 150 items for youth and adults to check out about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Some of the selections of reads for youth include My Daddy, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by Martin Luther King III, Who Was Martin Luther King Jr. by Bonnie Bader, Max Celebrates Martin Luther King Jr. Day by Adria Worsham, and others. And they also have a lot of selection of reads for adults as well, including the autobiography of Martin Luther King Jr., I Have a Dream by Martin Luther King Jr., An Act of State, The Execution of Martin Luther King by William Pepper, Becoming King, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Making of a National Leader by Troy Jackson, and Death of a King, The Real Story of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s Final Years by Travis Smiley. So we have a lot going on at the public library, and in addition to that, for the first year ever, we are going to be hosting a Martin Luther King Jr. Unity Walk here at the city. That's going to be on Monday, January 20th at 10 a.m. at City Hall. The way the event will work is it'll start with some opening remarks, and then we will have a unity walk from City Hall down Dodge Park to 17 Mile and back. And then we will feature, when we get back to City Hall, we'll feature a guest speaker. We have Dr. Tariq Cummings, who's the administrative pastor from Second Ebenezer Church, coming in to be our guest speaker that day. And then we'll have a performance or two, and then closing remarks. There will be complimentary refreshments on that day as well. This new Unity Walk is sponsored and hosted by the Sterling Heights Ethnic Community Committee, with support from our Sterling Heights African American Coalition as well. So really excited about that. We already have people registered. We've been posting about it on social media, and there is a direct link for people who want to register for that free event. And if they can't find that and they just want to call us at Community Relations, they can do so, and we can get them registered as well that way. So we're looking forward to a nice crowd on that day in celebration of that important holiday. The second thing that Mr. Vanderpool wanted me to cover was an important initiative that's coming up this spring, and that is our community-wide resident survey that we have coming up. Now, we conduct this broad-based community-wide survey, and it is a statistically significant survey, so it's based in science. We do that every 4 years. The last surveys were conducted in 2017 and in 2021, so 2025 is set for our next survey. We will be engaging with the survey company this spring. We anticipate that the survey will take place, as it did in 2021, over the summer. And we anticipate the results to be tabulated in around August, and hopefully have the contracted company present the findings to City Council in early fall. We just want to make sure that residents know that that's coming, that we're preparing them that this is coming, and that they will be provided the opportunity to share feedback with us on both city services, their satisfaction with city services, and also their opinion on a couple of key policy questions that we usually include on that survey. And while some questions on the survey vary from previous surveys, feedback on city services stays the same, so that we can kind of benchmark our progress over time. So as part of that presentation in the fall to council, we'll probably include some of our benchmarks from 2017 and 21, so we can see how we're doing and in the direction we're heading. And more to come on that, but we did want to let people know that that was coming, and to be looking for that in their mailbox and online. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor, I have just two more brief presentations, and I want to call on our Special Projects Coordinator, Lauren Moore, continuing the focus on spring and summer. Soon we will be cutting the ribbon on the very first community garden in our city's history, and undoubtedly one of the best in the state. And Ms. Moore is going to lead us through the latest update on that project.
Hello. So I was asked to give an update on the progress for the community garden. The community garden at Jameson Nelson Park is steadily transforming into a vibrant hub of connection and sustainability, with significant progress to report. The masonry and limestone work is now complete. The fencing, gates, and raised beds have been installed, bringing the garden structure to life. The pavilion installation is slated for this month, while public art pieces are scheduled for delivery and installation in April, adding creative flair to this exciting new community space. Applications for the garden bed licenses are officially open as of January 2nd of the current year, and we've already received several submissions. Hopefully more will follow, reflecting strong community enthusiasm. Once the weather breaks, construction will resume to finalize the remaining elements in time for the ribbon cutting, which is currently set for May 1st, and a grand opening, which is set for May 2nd, marking the first growing season from May 2nd through October 30th. As a part of this project, we will also be phasing in the development and installation of a microforest and a pawpaw grove, which are Michigan native fruit trees. Beginning.
Mr. Mayor, I hate to interrupt. Could we take a brief recess?
Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Calling the meeting back to order. We were hearing from Ms. Moore about the community garden and the excitement, and people were already taking advantage of inquiring about it. So, Ms. Moore, back to you.
All right, so I'm just gonna start at the top because I have a whole script ready for you.
You got it.
So let's go. Starting from the top. The masonry and limestone work is now complete, and the fencing, gates, and raised beds have been installed, bringing the garden structure to life. The pavilion installation is slated for this month, while public art pieces are scheduled for delivery and installation in April, adding a creative flair to this exciting community space. Applications for garden licenses officially opened on January 2nd of the current year, and we've already received several submissions. Hopefully more will follow, reflecting a strong community enthusiasm. Once the weather breaks, construction will resume to finalize the elements in time for the ribbon cutting on May 1st and the grand opening, which is slated for May 2nd, marking the first growing season from May 2nd through October 30th. As a part of this project, we will also be phasing in the development and installation of a microforest and a pawpaw grove, which are native fruit trees for Michigan. Beginning this spring, these grant-funded, sponsorship-funded amenities will further enhance the park's ecological value and community appeal. With concrete and asphalt paving completed and additional structures like the shed and butterfly conservatory taking shape, the garden is poised to become a cornerstone for engagement, sustainability, and inspiration in Sterling Heights. This transformative project reflects the hard work and collaborative efforts of Parks and Rec, facilities maintenance, community relations, city development, purchasing, and city management. The anticipation is building, and we look forward to celebrating this vibrant addition to our community together. And then I have a few pictures of the progression for the construction, which I think are pretty cool, because they start as just dirt, and then they go to some really, really pretty structures. So I hope you enjoy them. We'll start off with the overview images of like the map for everything we plan to come. In the top left corner, you'll see where we anticipate the microforest coming in. Then kind of as we move across to the other side of the path, we have the future pawpaw grove, those native fruit trees, which will have some really cool programming opportunities. So hopefully you take advantage. We'll I did not know what a pawpaw tree was. I will be honest and say that. So hopefully no one else knows what they are, and you'll be just as excited as I am when we introduce those. If you kind of move forward down to the actual like main part of the improvements coming to Nelson, you'll see the Butterfly Conservatory, the plaza, one of our public art pieces, which is going to be a swing. You don't know what kind of swing, but it's a swing. Plaza, which will be the standard pavilion, a children's garden, which is going to be really amazing. We have some cool things coming in there. I don't want to give it all away. I'm just going to say you are going to wish you were a kid. A compost section, or enclosure, excuse me, a shed, which is going to be really pretty and present some opportunities not just for storage and, functional space, but also community-oriented space where you'll be able to sit and enjoy. And then the proposed bee apiary section. And then our in-ground and raised bed area. And these are kind of straightforward. This is very early in the construction phases. And all the photos you'll see today are compliments of our very own Todd McCovis, the facilities maintenance manager, who also is apparently a photographer. So I don't know if it's in his title, but it should be. We also have the Butterfly Conservatory. When it first started out in the compost area, and that, like I said, as we go through these, they get really cool. You see they started from nothing and are definitely looking like something. To the left here, we have the entryway into the actual community garden space. Fencing, this is about a month or so old now. Construction went really well and is on track for sure, if not ahead. So fencing is already in. This is early on. Before it came in, it looks a lot better. To the left, you'll see the opposite end of the view. So you'll see the entryway into the community garden, and then to the right, there's the Butterfly Conservatory foundation. It looks a lot better now. Another advantage of that kind of plaza area and the entryway into the garden from like employees only section, which is this drive here, and then straight ahead is the compost enclosure. That's on the top left image. And then what most people care about is, or are, the garden beds, what they are and kind of where they are. We have approximately 105 beds available. So if you know someone or if you're that someone, feel free to submit your application. You can do it in person or online. If you have questions about it, feel free to give us a call or send us an email. But the top beds are the in-ground beds. We have some dedicated spaces for beds for programming, because like we said, we have a lot of cool things coming. We don't want you to just see it. We want you to experience it fully. Below, you'll see the raised beds, and then we have the ADA beds. There are about 5 of those, and 5 children's beds that are available for license. And that's everything for me.
So, Mayor, we're super excited for the ribbon cutting and the completion. I wanted to commend Ms. Moore. She has led this effort from the very beginning, all the research on this, meeting with communities that do have community gardens, figuring out how we can do it even bigger and better, and also overseeing construction, coordinating with all of our stakeholders. She's really done an amazing job. So we look forward to the finished product. And I wanted to conclude with just a couple more positive thoughts of spring, summer. As you know, the ITC trail has been mostly completed, enough that people are using it. And if you look on your screen, you can see on any given day when there's not snow and ice, there are people out on the trail. This was a little warmer day, but they're even out on days like this. So it's really fun to see. And you can see how this has changed, really transformed the ITC corridor. It really has turned it into a lineal park that before we never had access to. It was just vast open space. Some used it, those who lived along it, but now it's open to the community, and you can see this really is an amazing feature now. And there is some landscaping along the trail that has already been installed, but most of the landscaping will be completed in the spring. In addition, we have a new crossing that's been installed across Clinton River, which is strobe activated, so it's a much safer crossing now. Obviously, the need is there with many more people in the area using the trail and also connecting to the Edison Park, Dodge Park trailhead. And I did want to highlight the Edison Court, but maybe I don't have it in here. That part of the trailhead has been completed. That is open as well. We still have all the landscaping to finish up on Edison Court. That'll be done in the spring. Signage has to be installed and so on. But you can at least park there, and it's no longer barricaded off, so you can get to the Dodge Park trailhead right off of Edison Court. And Mayor, that concludes my report this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Vanderpool. Thank you to Stacy Zarko from Connect Macomb and Miss Melanie Davis from Community Relations, and learn more on those great updates today. So we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is an ordinance adoption. This is to consider adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 5 of the City Code for the purpose of implementing changes in the benefits paid to eligible personnel of the 41A Judicial District Court. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item tonight? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
resolve to adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 5 of the City Code for the purpose of implementing changes in the benefits paid to eligible personnel of the 41A Judicial District Court.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion?
This was explained at the last meeting, Mr. Mayor, so I'm happy to vote for it.
Council, anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any item on tonight's consent agenda? Seeing none, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Koski.
move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Been moved and supported with no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is a consideration item. This is to consider a request by Megan's Way for recognition as a local nonprofit organization for the purpose of obtaining a state of Michigan charitable gaming license. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this item? If not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Schmidt.
resolved that the request from Megan's Way of Sterling Heights, County of Macomb, asking that they be recognized as a local nonprofit organization for the purpose of obtaining a state of Michigan charitable gaming license be considered for approval, provided, however, that this action is not an endorsement of the organization and the city of Sterling Heights should not be listed on any promotional materials associated with this charitable gaming activity.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion, Mrs. Schmidt?
Mayor Taylor, I would just like to give a little background. The petitioners were unable to be here due to an event that they're having. So they did send us an email with some background, and I'd like to share that with the residents. For close to a decade, Megan Betcher fought bravely and tirelessly her battle with ovarian cancer. Even though she was going through so much, Megan's mission was to help as many people as possible. She was an inspiration to many. She will always be remembered as a strong, courageous, and very giving person. It is for this reason that Megan's Way was created to continue her outreach so her generosity can live on in many others. There are many families struggling with a cancer diagnosis that do not have the family support and financial means to get what they need. Megan's Way strives to inspire, uplift, and offer financial support to individuals and families who are experiencing hardships due to health issues and other unexpected crises stemming from a cancer diagnosis. In addition, we aim to acknowledge and celebrate the medical nursing professionals who go above and beyond their required responsibilities by providing exemplary patient care with a gentle, compassionate, and human touch. It is our vision to do what we can to ease the stress and lighten the heavy burden caused by severe illness and financial insecurity. So I think it's a very worthy cause. I think cancer has probably touched every resident in this community, unfortunately, and they are just trying to do their best to help those affected by it. It's the state's requirement that we acknowledge them as a nonprofit so that they can get these gaming licenses to have raffles, and I'm in full support of this.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is a consideration item, and this is to consider approval of a 10th Amendment to a consent judgment in the case Banucci et al. Versus City of Sterling Heights, Macomb County Circuit Court case numbers 76-2912 CE and 76-4645 CE. We have a presentation from our city planner, Dr. Jake Parcell. Dr. Parcell.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor, members of council, Mr. Vanderpool and Mr. Koszubski. We have before you this evening an amendment to a consent judgment for the Parkway Christian School located at the corner of Metropolitan Parkway and Shaner Road. So a brief history, this lawsuit was filed in 1976. There have been subsequent amendments to this, 9 of which also govern the Wujat Calcaterra Funeral Home. However, the relevant amendments to this consent judgment for the church and parochial school are amendments 3, 7, and 8, thus establishing the school and church. The applicant has requested to open the Parkway Christian School in 1997, and in January 98, the city entered into the 8th Amendment, allowing for its construction. Since then, as the school has continued to grow, we have seen considerable importance placed on the events they have here for students, which is leading us to our 10th Amendment this evening. The applicant is wishing to add a substantial athletic facility to the Bethesda site, which is the Parkway Christian School. In total, they will be adding over the next 4 years, 4,000 square foot athletic building with weight rooms, locker rooms, restrooms, and storage areas, construction of bleachers with 1,000 home seats and 500 away seats, a scoreboard and a press box, installation of a football field, track, pole vault area, shot put area, and jumping facilities, snack bar and public restrooms, in connection of parking lots, additional parking spaces, in total 50, emergency access routes, and additional landscaping for screening purposes. So here is the current layout of the Parkway Christian School. You'll see here on the north is Metropolitan Parkway, and Shaner Road is right here. They have existing athletic facilities here, which is a football field and 2 baseball diamonds. However, as the school has seen a rise in their athletics, bringing a state-of-the-art athletic facility to this site would be beneficial for the students and for the community alike. Here's the existing layout to show. This is the football field here and the baseball stadium. There's really no amenity over here for anyone in the public or any large seating features or any big press box that currently exist. So the proposed layout that you see here is zoomed in, with this being the relief drain here and this being where the school is on the left side of the screen, is a full football field with a state-of-the-art track around it. On the side here is where the home bleachers, press box, locker rooms, and weight rooms are, with the visiting bleachers down here, which would be facing Shaner Road. The track and field amenities are kind of scattered around the football field, as you see in a traditional layout, and the baseball diamonds are remaining untouched, which would be on the eastern side here. The parking lot will be added to the north end of this athletic facility. The parking lot, from my understanding, is intended mostly for visitors coming to the site, for buses to come in and do their turnarounds, bringing people here, and also to provide accessible parking spaces closer to the field for people who don't have to walk further. The entire field is blocked in with a fence, so it will be for private events held by Parkway Christian School, with the intention, as it's developed over the next 4 years, to bring attention to statewide events or regional events for high school students. We have had meetings with the applicant, with the police department as well, ensuring that we have adequate routes for emergency vehicle access onto the field in case of injury or for large crowds for gathering here. The applicant is proposing to do some substantial landscaping in line with the city's tree preservation ordinance and for screening purposes. So here is the Sterling relief drain, which on the other side to the south is directly abutted by single-family homes. They are proposing to do 3-foot berms and a 4-foot berm here, with evergreen plantings lining it, which will help buffer the noise from the press box during Friday night or Thursday night football games. Additionally, there will be landscaping and shrubs provided along the walkway and over here with some of the spirit rock and the amenities for people walking onto the site. The site will have, due to the fundraising portion of this and financing portion of this project, 3 phases. The first phase, which is anticipating coming up this spring, should it be approved, is doing the site work, bringing in the water, electricity, and the detention ponds, as well as moving the field and kind of clearing the grade. Phase 2 for next year, after they play their last season this fall and the soccer season in the spring, would be the addition of lights and bleachers to facilitate events next spring and fall. And then finally, the large building work, snack stand, weight room, and concessions would be the final phase, taking place from spring 2027 to spring 2029. At the end of it, resulting in a full comprehensive athletic facility for the school to use. The development is anticipated to be used for private sporting events, track and field, soccer and football, as well as baseball. So the traffic generated from this development will be limited to the times that line up with the middle school and high school sports schedule. So there won't be constant trips generated by this development in and out of the site. It'll be mainly held to like Friday nights and Thursday nights for football games, or earlier afternoons and weekends for soccer and track and field. We did not require at this point a traffic impact analysis for this specific project. When looking at nationwide trends in this, we see that approximately for a stadium of this size, 1 trip in is about 5 seats needed for 1 trip in. So we're not anticipating them to be full at every event. That means on average, based on the national standards, we're looking at about 200 trips per hour for the duration of the event, and then no trips per hour generated at any time when the field's not in use. And because it is a private event, it's not bringing people in from the public to come in and use the facility without Parkway Christian having sponsored the event. Additionally, we're very cautious of the noise generated from this with the single-family homes. We brought it up in the meeting with the Parkway Christian team. So they are planning to put the berms around the field with the evergreens, heavily screening that will help buffer any of the noise that comes through there. And then the consent judgment will also review the decibels created from the press box that they are willing to sign into. But at this point, we do believe that they are working hard to mitigate concerns. We don't believe that traffic should be an anticipated concern since it's not a constant use. And we believe that the phasing plan is in line with what the city would be able to see from their fundraising perspective to bring the full athletic facility up to code. And with that, I am open for any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Parcell. Is there anyone in the audience would the applicant like to make any comments?
Good evening. I'm Brett Buchholz with Nowak and Frous Engineers, representing Parkway Christian. And there's one of their subconsultants here to assist. We're doing the civil engineering work. And we're really proud to be part of this project. And really the school is trying to just expand upon their facility there and provide a really great environment for their students. And with that, I mean, I could answer any questions at this time.
So when we are in our deliberations, we'll bring you back up to ask
Sure.
any questions if we have them, but at this point, I'll go to the audience and see if there's anyone else, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, now I'll open it up to members of the public. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item here tonight? All right, if not, council, we need a motion.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Sarowski.
resolved to approve the 10th Amendment to consent judgment in the case Benucci et al. Versus City of Sterling Heights, Macomb County Circuit Court case numbers 76-2912-CE and 76-4645-CE, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign all documents required in conjunction with this approval.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mrs. Sarowski?
Very briefly, Mayor Taylor, thank you so much. And I'm just going to make some comments, because I'm excited for this project. My kids did not attend public schools throughout all of their education. They did have the advantage of going to a private high school, and I know how valuable it is to have your own facility when you're at that type of an environment, because you don't always get the amenities in a smaller school that public schools often do. So I'm excited for you guys to get this out and running, and I know that you've had very good, Parkway Christian has had great athletic teams and some really recent beautiful successes. So I'm happy to see that this facility will be built for them. And then on a private note, I live 1 block away from Stevenson High School. Literally, you can see my house practically from these doors. And I do just want to make a comment that although sometimes we can hear the games, we're only a block away, it is, houses are doing some of the buffering, but it isn't intrusive. And so for the community, I just wanted to say, as a person that lives right by a high school with full facilities, it has never been a problem to have that there. So just as a comment, I don't think that this should be looked at as a negative at all to the neighbors. I think it's going to be a benefit both to the community and to the school itself. So I'm happy to support this. And that's all, Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sarowski. Council, anyone else? Mrs. Zarko.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. First of all, I live within 3/4 of a mile, and the principal is here tonight, and we occasionally run into each other during COVID, when I actually walked that track, or the circle driveway, every single day during COVID, because it was the only place you could go. And occasionally we would see each other on the track. I, too, my daughter went to private school and also private college, so I understand that funding sometimes is difficult, and the fact that you have the funding to do this is almost miraculous. But I can see nothing but advantages for the students that are attending the school. But I do have a couple of questions, and whoever wants to answer me, but what's the enrollment at the school right now? And about, how many teams does this affect? Because you have baseball that's already going on, soccer and football. So if somebody can just give me the answer, what's the enrollment right now?
Todd Carley, I'm the business manager and treasurer at Bethesda and Parkway. Current enrollment is 546 students as of today. For us, I just checked with our track coach. In the last 3 years, we've had 15 kids go to state. they practice in our parking lot. And they've made it to state. So it's going to affect not only sports, but it will also affect some of our fine arts, because band will be, we will be bringing back our band. We will be affecting with cheer and with other things that are part of every school that goes into those programs.
Okay. The other thing is I noticed that, well, I don't walk on the grounds now because you have the security signs up, so I'm not eligible. So now I use the Freedom Trail, which is, that abuts the property. So my biggest thing would be is if you're going to increase security, because you will have more people there. And I noticed that when I'm walking on the trail, I can actually see what's going on the grounds, and I would worry about people coming in and taking pictures that they shouldn't of the kids that are out there. So I would hope that you would put some kind of buffer there as well on your side of the fence that would give you a little bit more privacy. And I know that, I hope that's in the plans. But that's what I would worry about, is the security for the kids that are out there. I think it's a great idea. I think this is going to do nothing but increase your enrollment. You have a great reputation there. Kids are great. Faculty's great, because I've had a chance to talk to some of them, because like I said, I'm 3/4 of a mile away. But yes, so in fact, one of my friends is actually working in the preschool area right now. So I think this is a great idea. So I'm wishing you a lot of luck. Hope you have all the money to build it, because I know it takes a lot. And good luck. That's all I have. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Mr. Radke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the chair to Mr. Koszewski. This is a consent judgment, which, as I understand it, means that we're consenting to a site plan without them having to go through the normal process because we've been sued in the past. Is that correct, Mr. Koszewski?
Mr. Koszewski.
I'll say it this way. They've gone through the site planning process with the planning department to look at all the site plans and make sure that it is something that would be within our engineering standards and within the development plans that we would normally see. And they are offering a site plan to council for council to decide.
I guess then I'd ask for the chair to Dr. Parcell. Would this site, as it is currently situated, meet our current standards for walkability, sidewalk connection, safety for students?
I believe so, yes.
Even without a sidewalk connection to the street?
Yes, so our ordinance stipulates that you would need the sidewalk connection to the principal use, which would be to the Parkway Christian School itself, not within here to the athletic facility. So when looking at this site plan, we wouldn't have required by code that 2,000 feet of sidewalk.
Right. So I guess I wasn't clear on my question. Could, as part of the consent judgment, could we alter the school site to require sidewalk from the school to the street? Is the entire site part of the consent judgment?
So the entire site and the Wujat Calcaterra Funeral Home are part of the consent judgment, essentially parcel A and parcel B. And if it were the will of the council to make that determination, then yes, I believe you could do that.
Because we're consenting at that point. We're saying we want this for that, essentially.
Mr. Koszewski may answer, but yes.
To the chair, to Mr. Koszewski.
The short answer is yes. The city council can decide, what criteria it wants to accept and offer of an amendment to a consent judgment, because both parties need to consent.
Okay. I guess this is where I stand on this. I think the stadium is an excellent addition to the site, but I have real concerns about the safety of the site. Right now, students are sharing car lanes with cars and I guess walking to the stadium and then walking anywhere else they're going to walk. They're going to be in a parking lot with cars. If anything were to happen, God forbid, that anything were to happen on the site, people would be, I assume, fleeing down the current pathways that would be shared with cars. Our current standards say that you have to have a connection to the public sidewalk to your site from the public sidewalk that is not shared with a car lane. And your site does not have that at all. And frankly, I'm worried that a child is going to get struck by a car eventually. So I listened very intently to Mrs. Zarco's comments of walking the ring road. And I guess the reason she was walking the ring road is because there's no sidewalk on the site for her or anyone else to walk. So I'll be voting no on this. Not because I don't want to give you guys a stadium, I want you to get the stadium. But I think it's a necessity that you add sidewalk for your students. I think it's kind of insane to me that in this day and age, we've built a school and a church that has no way to walk or facilitate on the site without walking in a parking lot with cars. So that's how I stand. My colleagues, they might vote for it, and I want you guys to do very well with the stadium. I would support that, but I want to make sure the safe is as safe as possible for students. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Council, anyone else?
Mayor Taylor? If nobody else.
Check my notes here. We already had Mrs. Zarko.
I know. I do want to say something about the sidewalk on private property, because I have to tell you, I've walked there at dismissal in the past before they changed their security and had no problem walking next to a car or a vehicle. It is. I mean, I'm not sure. I would agree that in that particular area, they would need a sidewalk. I really mean that, because of, if you'd have to study the site, and I've been there enough times to study it, it works without a sidewalk. And I look at all the other, I look at St. Blaise, and there's not a sidewalk on their premises. There would be, there's one in front of the church, but there's not a sidewalk from their church to get,
There is from the street.
to the street, but yeah, but,
It's right on, facing Maple
Right.
Lane.
but it certainly doesn't have the, it works, is the only thing I could say. It works, and the reason I walked it is because the loop was 3/4 of a mile. I mean, if that's what I did it for the measurement part of it. I wasn't doing it because there wasn't a sidewalk, so.
Well, just to clarify, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Radke, go ahead.
So I was just talking about, not to the stadium, but to the actual short connection from Shaner Road to the school and I guess the church. That was what I was talking about, because the stadium's an ancillary use. I want the main use to have sidewalk. And I guess the way I view it is, we're adults, but, this is a school that has many different age students. So not all of us are as aware, or not all kids are as aware. So that's my viewpoint on that. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Council, anyone else?
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Schmidt.
I'm going to say, after years and years of,
Wait a second.
what?
You gave yours to.
Yes, you did.
You gave yours to Barb, didn't you?
I rescind it.
Okay, go ahead.
This is your second.
Okay, I promise it'll be my last. So after years and years of going to AYSO 190 games on that field over there, I have walked that site with many kids and many cars, and I never felt it was unsafe. I think this is a great purpose for this huge field that's being not utilized. I mean, I've seen your football team out there, and they have quite a great reputation as well as your track team. I think it's exciting for them. I do think it will help in your recruitment for your enrollment. And we must remember that this is a private school. It is not a public school. It's not public property. It's not open to the public. So I think I'm very comfortable. I'm very excited for you folks. And like I said, I spent many days in the rain and the snow and the sun on your property. And I think it's a wonderful place. And I really think the neighbors will get excited to have Friday night lights in the backyard. I mean, I live a mile from Sterling Heights High School, and sometimes we hear the marching band still at our house. And I'm a band family, so we like the band. But everybody gets excited about kids being out there and being active, and in a time when kids are less active than ever before, and getting them involved in sports and band and cheer and baseball, soccer and track is a wonderful thing, because trust me, working at a high school, I know all of those teams' enrollments have gone down significantly, not only since COVID, but after that. And it's great to see this new exciting facility for your students. So I wish you well.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Mr. Yanis.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but now I feel the need to chime in. Public or private, safety is safety, and I agree with Mr. Radke that if this is a safety issue, and it's part of our ordinance, that it should definitely be considered. However, I do have some questions for someone from Parkway, if, it doesn't matter who. It's, although maybe not the engineer, or but that's okay, I'll ask anyways. So I live across the street, I live on Plumbrook and Shanner, so I literally see the cross comes through my window every night when I go to bed. None of the students actually walk to school. You have any students that actually walk to school?
My understanding is it's zero,
Okay.
zero walkers.
Zero walk, so they're either car or bus, correct? So there is no safety issue with somebody walking, off of Shaner up that driveway. What do you do in case of an emergency, a bomb threat, a fire, just a fire alarm? What do you do in regards to with the students? Are the students ever shuttled towards Shaner Road for any reason?
Come up to the microphone.
Yeah, come up to the microphone.
The students are moved to parking lots, more to the chapel and church side. In fire drills and any drill that they do, they come closer to what I would say is Freedom Hill, our neighbor.
Okay.
And so we do not move towards Shaner Road. We do not move towards, even on the parking lot on the side of Metropolitan Parkway.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I agree with Mr. Radke. I think this is a safety issue. I am going to support this, but I don't think we should just sort of offhand, whether nobody walks to the school or not, we should just dismiss this issue. And I'm hoping maybe Parkway even at some point consider putting in sidewalks, because of this issue, because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. You may have to move students towards Shaner Road for some reason. The next issue I'll bring up, and I was thinking about it as I'm watching this thing, and, I sit next to Madam Redshirt over here, Mrs. Zarco, about the neighborhood, and somebody brought up the marching band. I live at, like I said, at Plumbrook and Shaner, and I can hear the Sterling Heights marching band. It's like they were marching next door to me. Have there been conversations with the neighbors? I don't think a 3-foot berm with some trees really going to dampen the noise, especially at the point where you build the stadium and someone's calling the game from, there's a loudspeaker up top, right? Someone's calling the game. I know the games will be over by, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I would assume. But has there been conversations with the neighbors that live directly across the drain? Anyone from Christian Parkway or? Has Were people in the neighborhood directly to the south notified of this construction project? Yeah, let the record show. Dr. Jake is shaking his nodding his head, yes.
Yeah, if I may, we expanded our noticing requirement for this for the entirety of the site under the consent judgment, not just the athletic field, because we were aware of the noise nuisance. Okay. So we sent out some extra letters, especially taking into account the drain there, wanting to make sure we reach those neighbors. And then additionally, everything else falls under the city's nuisance ordinances for noise, which, is how we go for all code violations. So it would have a cap on when the noise would have to end in the evening.
Okay. I can only imagine somebody might complain at some point. The other thing too is I'm really curious as to how this is going to work out when, on a Friday night, when there's a big football game against your big competition and there's a concert at, Freedom Hill, in September. So, I don't know how the neighbors are going to feel about that. Other than that, I think it's a fine project. I congratulate you for doing what you're doing. This is going to be a great amenity to not only the kids, but their families. And I'm going to fully support this. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yanez. Anyone else?
I have one question, Mr. Mayor.
One more, Mr. Radke.
Thank you. To the chair, Mr. Koszybski. If they wanted to add sidewalk in the future, would it have to come back as an 11th amendment to the consent judgment?
Mr. Koszybski.
That's a great question. I would have to look at that to see if it would be able to be done administratively or not.
So we don't know.
Not until I look at it, which I'm looking at right now.
If I could clarify, are you talking about sidewalk on the private drive?
I'm talking about sidewalk right here. That's all I want, from here to right here. From Shinner side,
Mr.
up
Rizek,
the
if
private
you
drive
could put it
to
up.
the school entrance. The short side.
I believe right here to the entrance right there.
Yes, exactly.
That's 900 linear feet.
Councilman Radke, it's not addressed within the consent judgment. It would be something we would have to take a look at.
Okay. I was just curious because we can hope that they'll do it, but if it has to come back, that's a whole nother thing. So I hope it gets done. It's a safety issue. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm comfortable with this too. I'm going to vote in favor of it. I think it's a good project, and I've appreciated the partnership between Parkway and the city of Sterling Heights. I know you guys have had me out a number of times to talk to students, and you're very involved in the city. Great partners for the city, and you've got a beautiful piece of property there that's underutilized, and so I think this is going to really make it look great, and you've got great visibility right from Shaner Road as well, so I think you're going to see, people are going to be driving by, and it's going to probably do a lot for the school. Hopefully it will, because I know a lot of people, the church is certainly visible from far and wide, and so this is going to be sort of like, I think, a flag for the, a flag for the school to say, hey, here, we're here too. I have family members who are at Parkway, cousins and their kids and everything. And so they love it there, and I've always enjoyed the time that I've spent there. Personally, I think maybe it would be a good idea to have some sidewalk there, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I mean, my daughter was involved in the color guard for Henry Ford High School, so we were at football games most Friday nights this year for the first time in a long time that I was back at high school, and we were over at Stevenson, as other council members have said, they live near it. There's not the difference between, I say, Stevenson and Parkway is that there's that whatever it was, a couple hundred linear feet between Shaner and the parking lot, actually. But once you get in, if you're just going to do a sidewalk that just gets into the parking lot, then you're into the parking lot and you're in with all the cars and vehicular traffic anyways. And so, like, when there'd be a Friday night football game at Stevenson High School, which is where Henry Ford plays their home games, unlike Parkway, a lot of the foot traffic a lot of the people were coming by foot traffic rather than by vehicular traffic. And so, they'd walk, and then once you get into the parking lot, it's, you hate to say it, but it's sort of a free-for-all. And sometimes, it is pretty maddening in there between the teenage drivers and some of the adult drivers. And you gotta be very mindful of that. And there's kids everywhere. There's little kids everywhere, there's like, we're bringing our 9-year-old to our 14-year-old's game. So it's just something that I think is a reality, that people should be on their best behavior in school parking lots and around school areas, and just be mindful of it, because luckily we haven't had any major incidents there, and I'm certain that Parkway is going to be able to navigate this effectively. So just something to think about, but I'm certainly in support of it, and I've been there many, many times, and I can tell the public, if you're not familiar with Parkway, their student safety and their student experience is the number one priority there. And I'm certain that that'll be on the top of their mind with this development too. So I'm happy to support, and looking forward to attending some football games there and rooting on the Eagles. So, council, with no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 6-1. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next item on our agenda tonight, which is to consider approval of a cost-sharing agreement between the City of Sterling Heights, Charter Township of Clinton, and the Macomb County Department of Roads for the rehabilitation of the Hayes Road Bridge over the Clinton River. We have a presentation from our city engineer, Brent Bayshaw. Mr. Bayshaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council, City Manager, Mr. Koszubski. So a cost share was presented at the City Council meeting at December 3rd, 2014. 2024 to provide for the rehabilitation of the Hayes Road Bridge over the Clinton River. The bridge is on the border of Sterling Heights. Therefore, the cost share included Clinton Township for the east half of the bridge. The cost share included $1.14 million in federal dollars, $321,000 for Macomb County Department of Roads, and $160,000 each for Sterling Heights and Clinton Township. The project scope included the reconstruction of the concrete beam ends, the installation of new expansion dams, patching and epoxy overlay of the deck, and replacing the existing sidewalk on the bridge. The item was postponed until tonight's meeting to review the possibility of providing a pedestrian separation barrier with the project. The existing sidewalk on the bridge is shown on the picture on the left. Excuse me. After reviewing the condition with Macomb County, they are willing and able to add the separation barrier to the project. This will provide no delays to the project and fit in with the timing of the project. The barrier will be similar to this barrier that was recently installed on Clinton River Road over M53 in the summer. The sidewalk's on the right and the vehicular traffic's on the left, with the exception that this project would have the black rail instead of the galvanized rail. The city cost to install this barrier would be approximately $150,000 and would be funded from the city major road fund. Currently, there's no sidewalk on the west side of Hayes leading up to the bridge. However, sidewalk installation in this area would tie in many neighborhoods and provide great network connectivity. The Hayes Road sidewalk to the north is recently complete all the way to M59. The Clinton River Road sidewalk is complete to the west to Edison Court and the new ITC trail. Also, the Utica Road sidewalk to the west to the city center is now complete. And of further importance, the sidewalk would connect to the upcoming Rotary Park and Belvedere Park project. On this basis, it would be beneficial to add this sidewalk installation to the Priority Sidewalk Gap Program and plan for the sidewalk construction. Construction could commence as early as 2026 with PPP millage funds, with easement acquisition beginning in 2025. As another exciting potential improvement, Clinton Township is considering making a sidewalk connection shown in orange upon hearing of our potential plans with the sidewalk and the parks. This would make a great connection from our sidewalk network to the trail along Metro Parkway. And lastly, along with the Clinton River, or along with the Hayes Road Bridge, the county is planning a similar work to the Utica Bridge over the Clinton River. They plan to bid the two bridges together as one project. The Utica Road Bridge is entirely in Clinton Township, and Clinton Township is considering sidewalk improvements to this bridge as well as their half of the Hayes Road Bridge. So what are the next steps? Clinton Township is reviewing their potential sidewalk improvements to both the Hayes Road Bridge and the Utica Bridge and expect to reach a decision at their mid-January meeting. Upon their decision, Macomb County Department of Roads can revise the agreement for Sterling Heights to include the barrier on the Hayes Road Bridge. The agreement would be brought forth to City Council, likely at a February meeting. And therefore, to proceed with this plan, the appropriate action at this time would be to indefinitely postpone the item on the table. The Office of Engineering's recommendation is to proceed with this manner to establish a new cost share to include the pedestrian separation barrier with the project. The barrier installation is consistent with major road bridges recently constructed and will provide a safer and more comfortable experience for pedestrians when the future walk is installed. This concludes my presentation. Thank you, and I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bayshaw. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Not, council, we need a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
resolve to postpone indefinitely consideration of the cost-sharing agreement in the city of Sterling Heights, Charter Township of Clinton, and the Macomb County Department of Roads for the rehabilitation of the Hayes Road Bridge over the Clinton River as presented at the December 3rd, 2024 regular council meeting.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion, Mr. Radke?
Yes, briefly, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I just want to thank the city administration, and I guess the new administration in Clinton Township and I guess Macomb County for seriously considering this. It's exciting to see that we might finally have connections in this entire neighborhood that has not had any sidewalk or any connections. And I just keep thinking that if Clinton Township puts in their connection, maybe in the future we could connect it to the new trail behind Freedom Hill County Park. It'd be a totally connected sidewalk, parkway, and it's just wonderful that the council agreed to postpone this and that we caught it. Because this is going to really change, I think, the whole area over there for the people who live over there. So I'm very happy to postpone this and then vote for a separation barrier. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Mrs. Sarowski.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Taylor. So I just also wanted to echo Mr. Radke's thanks to the city government and our partnership with Clinton Township and Macomb County that we're going to hold off on this. I agree completely because sidewalks, and I know Mr. Radke is our biggest sidewalk promoter, but sidewalks certainly, it's not just about safety for mobile people or average ambulatory people. It's also safe for our residents that have impaired mobility. And this just makes it just illustrates the importance of that. And I'm very happy that we're going to be postponing until we have it a little bit more buttoned up. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sarowski. Council, anyone else? Mrs. Zarko.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Nothing else on this particular issue, but when you put the picture up of the barriers on the bridge, which look really good, there are other bridges within the city that could use the same barriers. And I'm just saying that you might not be able to put the barriers up right now, but when they come up for improvements, it might be a consideration. The ones I'm thinking of immediately are the bridge that's on Shaner south of 15 Mile, which was originally built in 1977. And the sidewalk there is probably half the size of what we're using today, and that can't be changed. So, but a barrier would help because you have to ride bikes single file. You can't go side by side there. And then the other bridge would be the one that's on 15 Mile east of Shaner. So those two could use barriers. And that's just the two that I'm thinking about right now. So if we could look into that in the future, when it comes up for improvement, that we include the barriers. Nothing further.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Zarko. Mr. Yanis.
Yeah, just a procedural question through the chair to Mr. Koszybski. How do we bring this back?
Mr. Koszybski.
So the motion to postpone indefinitely essentially kills this agenda item because this was a specific agreement that we were bringing forward. There'll be a new agreement that'll come forward separately on a different date, so this will never come back in the form it is.
Okay, so it's a completely different item.
That's correct.
Very good. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mayor Taylor?
Mrs. Schmidt.
Through the chair to Mr. Bishaw, if you could put the picture up again with the sidewalk installation or the possible sidewalk installation. My question is, I know on Hayes, there's one house in particular that it doesn't look like there's enough room to put a sidewalk without being like smack up to their house. How would we do that?
Well, it'll just be a 5-foot walk, so we do have an instance where we've done that before. We put it between the curb and the house, and it'll be a little bit tight, but we can fit it in there.
Yeah, it doesn't even look like there's 5 feet between their house and or the porch in Hayes, but.
Yeah, we did do a feasibility on this section of sidewalk because, not only that was a concern, there was also some slopes that were a concern. There was also the area by the river that was a concern. And we wanted to make sure we could fit the sidewalk in there, before we recommended approval of the barrier.
Okay, and then the sidewalk on Utica Road would be essentially on the south side of Utica Road?
Correct.
So Rotary Park is on the north side of Utica Road, so then we would need a crosswalk there, or some way for people to get from the sidewalk to the park.
Yeah, and we can look further into that as we get there. I know it'd be easy to cross at the intersection because that is a lighted intersection. So we looked at that as well. You could go through it's called that pork chop little thing at the right turn. You could go through there, go behind the stop bar and put a crosswalk in and have it signalized at Hayes. Now, if we want another crossing further west, that's something we can look at. We'd have to make sure we do it in a safe manner if we did include a mid-block crossing at that location.
But we have no sidewalk on that north side.
No.
So
We would have to, so we would have to connect it from the park to wherever we put the mid-block crossing, if we did do that. But we also connect, I don't show it in red here, but on the north side, we would connect that sidewalk to the park.
okay.
So it would likely to be done with the park, which is why I didn't show it, but I probably should have shown it.
Okay. All right. I have nothing further. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Schmidt. Anyone else? No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next up tonight is to consider a nomination to the City of Sterling Heights Board of Review. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on this item? Not, council, we need a motion. Is there a nomination?
I'm looking for it. I know, I'm just.
Yes.
Mayor Taylor,
Mrs. Schmidt.
resolved to nominate Allison Magny for consideration as an appointee to the Board of Review at the January 21st, 2025 regular city council meeting.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Council, with no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that concludes that portion of our agenda. We'll move on to communications from citizens. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any item not on tonight's agenda? All right, council, we'll move on to reports from city administration. Mr. Vanderpool, anything tonight?
Nothing further, Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Koszybski?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Council, any reports or new business or unfinished business?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Yanez?
Through the chair to the city manager, I got a phone call in regards to Metropolitan Parkway. The caller, the citizen was concerned about how dark it is. And he was under the impression, or he's been told, that any lighting falls on the city, even though it's a county road. Is that true?
Mr. Vanderpool?
Councilman Yanez, I would have to double check that. I mean, obviously, if the county did not have a lighting project and they said, if the city wants to proceed and pay for it, they'd be happy to help engineer it and construct it. But this has come up before. That is a very dark section when you look at, really, it's from Van Dyke over to
Utica.
Utica, and it should be lit. I'd have to get a little more research on that and see if there's anything in their master plan to light up that section. I think there may be.
Okay, if you can get back with us, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yanez. Council, anyone else?
Mayor Taylor.
Mrs. Sarowski?
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to reiterate it for anyone who missed it or didn't hear the clarification from our Community Relations Director, Melanie Davis, that we are really looking forward to the Martin Luther King Jr. Unity Walk. It is at 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday, and it is going to be from City Hall to 17 Mile and back. So it's not that long of a distance. It's not even a full mile. And, well, maybe almost a mile, but back and forth. But I think that this is really something that I want to really encourage the residents to participate with. This isn't just for government people. This isn't just for business people, it's for everyone. And it certainly supports and promotes the values that Dr. Martin Luther King did, and we still need to continue. So I am encouraging people to please come out. I know that some of us still work on those days. We don't always, not everyone gets Martin Luther King Jr. Day off. Nurses never do, intentionally. So, but I'm going to be taking that day off just for this, and I hope that more people will join. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sarowski, Nurse Sarowski, that is. Council, anyone else? Mrs. Zarko?
Mayor Taylor. Yeah, Madam Red Shirt. Yeah, Madam Nurse. I don't know if we need to bring this up at strategic planning, but it was brought to my attention actually by Mr. Yanez before Christmas. And I got to thinking about it, and in order for our city manager to spend or sign off on something, the threshold is $10,000 before it comes to us. And with the cost of everything going up and the size of our budget and the approval process that we have in place with the finance director, I think the threshold is a little low. And we might want to consider this maybe at strategic planning, that we raise the threshold to give him a little more leeway as, before it has to come to us. So that's something to think about.
Do you have an amount in mind?
No, but I think I would probably talk to Mrs. Varney to see what she would suggest as to, you know, I would look for her input. So,
What was the proposal before? There was one proposed to us.
30 grand.
30 grand, I think.
Yeah, that's correct, Mayor and Councilwoman Zarko. We would be happy to take a look at that. We are woefully under where we should be. That limit was established, you know, back in the early days of our charter, when you could buy a police car, multiple police cars. Now you certainly can't do that. It is administratively burdensome and not the most effective use of taxpayer money to bring all those items to city council for consideration. You do approve them in the budget, so we'd be happy to give you some background information on that at strategic planning.
Could we do some research through the chair to Mr. Vanderbilt? Do some research with what our comparable cities are doing and what their thresholds are?
Absolutely.
Okay. Nothing further.
Okay, council, anyone else?
Oh, I do. Sorry. We're going back to lights.
Mrs. Zarko.
I know. I'm sorry, but
You can ask for it without objection.
the lights on Shaner between, it would be between Clinton River and Utica Road. They exist, but they don't work. And then I made a call in one day today when the lights were out at Metro Parkway in Shaner. So they took care, and I mentioned the lights. The lights now work between Clinton River and 17 Mile, but they still don't work between 17 Mile and Utica Road. I mean,
I noticed this.
and it's been that way for a while. So, and that would be the county that takes care of that, wouldn't it?
Do you mean the overhead
The street
street
lights.
lights, not
Street
the
lights.
traffic control?
The traffic control was out at 16 and Shaner, Monday, it might have been Friday?
Yeah, so if it's a street light, that's a simple, we have a hotline, if you will, to DT. It is their responsibility to replace those. So we will make sure that they're aware of that tomorrow morning. The traffic control lights, normally, that is the county, and they get on those very quickly once we notify them.
Okay. I did call the non-emergency number to make the notification, and they did have, DTE did have a crew out there the afternoon that I called. So, but they, like I said, they're still not all working.
They're more responsive to you. You're very influential. When we call it in, it takes a little longer, so we'll go through you next.
Okay.
Okay, on the issue of whether the city administration should research the comparable cities and what their threshold is for bringing items to city council and making that part of strategic planning, is there any objection to proceeding that way?
No objection, but I have a comment.
Go ahead,
Which
Mr.
is,
Radke.
I would be comfortable doubling the current $10,000 to $20,000, which I think was one of the proposals that we discussed the last time. Because that still keeps it under the threshold to buy vehicles. But I'm curious what Mrs. Varney says, so I'm happy to go along with it. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay. Very,
Mayor?
very good. Mrs. Kosky.
You can also ask our city attorney to produce what we were going to do last time, because I believe that that was supposed to be some kind of a charter amendment. And the amount was to be raised according to the rate of inflation. So every year, the city manager would get an increase as to the amount that he could spend without council approval. And that's why it got turned down.
Yeah, I do.
So you can look at what we had before, along with research as to what everyone else is doing, and council can deliberate on that.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Koski. It sounds like there's not objection.
Henry's,
And I don't have an objection. I do not have an objection. But I do want to, since we are looking into this, I just want to add this aspect to it. The reason why I brought this up to Mrs. Yarko is because I saw in our bills that there was a grant from the Velocity Center, or not a grant, but they bought a sponsorship for $9,999. And when I questioned Ms. Varney on this, she advised me that our boards that oversee our TIFs, our CIA and so forth, don't have the requirement, the cap, that the city manager has. They can spend as much as they want. She forces the cap on them. And should Ms. Varney hit the lottery and leave us, I don't know if somebody else is going to do that. So if we're going to have this conversation, we need to add that in as well. I don't think unelected people should be spending the taxpayers' dollars at any amount they choose to.
that's a good point.
That's a good point.
Okay. Anybody object to talking about that? No objection. Okay, back to the round robin. So we've had a couple council members go. Anybody else with reports, new business, unfinished business?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Radke.
just because we're now talking about charter amendments, if we're having fun, I think that it's long overdue. I don't think it needs to be done at strategic planning, but I think we need to talk about, now that we have 4-year terms, how we fill those 4-year terms if someone leaves halfway through a term. Right now, if you're a county commissioner and you leave in the first 2 years of your 4-year term, they are required to have a by-election, eventually, the next coming election, to fill your seat. As our charter stands right now, and Mr. Koszybski, please correct me if I'm incorrect, we'd have to have either a special election if we cannot agree, or we could appoint someone to fill almost up to 4 years of a term. Is that correct, Mr. Koszybski?
Mr. Koszybski.
That is how it stands at the moment.
And I personally think that is, I would hate to see a situation like Mr. Brown leaving at the county commission. Then the council appoints someone for 4 years to fill a seat, and they have never been elected by the voters. For all we know, they never put themselves before the voters. I think that's a long time to let someone be an appointed official. So I would argue that we should put forward a charter amendment for the voters to, and we can talk about this. I want to see information on it. I don't want to disapprove it right now. But we should have information on a process for if in the first 2 years of a term, if it's after the first 2 years, I think I'd just go with normal election. That's how we used to do it. But if it's in the first 2 years of a term, it should have to go before the voters for approval at a certain point. So I'd love to have that conversation. It does not need to be at strategic planning, but it's something I think we need to do to improve our charter. So I'd ask for, without objection, I'd ask for a report to be produced on a possible charter amendment to discuss what I just said. I'm sorry, I just thought of it today, so I didn't have anything prepared.
Okay. Any objection? If we're not talking, I mean, can we, do you want to say like 6 months? I mean,
Yeah, 3 months. We have an election coming, so I would say, want to put before the voters this year or maybe in the following year, but something that we should definitely consider.
Okay. Council, any objection to a report on that? Hearing none. Yeah, get it to us as soon.
Yes, yeah, that'd be helpful. I also want to wish everyone a happy new year. I'm so excited for strategic planning. I know we have one meeting between now and strategic planning, but I hope people will come out and join us. We have a lot of great things. I know Mrs. Zarko said it's her favorite meeting of the year, but I think it's my favorite meeting of the year. So I'll fight her for it, because I think we have a lot of exciting initiatives coming, and I'm very excited just that the voters trusted us with the sidewalk pathways to plan preservation. And I think with this bridge that we talked about today, you see the effect of having this money now and having the ability to really get out there and fix sidewalks and create a more walkable community. So I'm so excited for that. So I hope folks join us, and I can't wait. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Radke. Anyone else? All right, if not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Support.
Been moved and supported, with no discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.